that brings me to I want to talk about before we wrap up here because we're getting close to the end. But I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks for a second because we faced them tonight. Didn't talk a whole bunch about them. We talked about Giannis, Dame, Khris Middleton a little bit, but I do want to touch on Khris Middleton here because tonight he came out and there were portions of this game where yeah, it kind of took it to the Celtics a little bit. Made it to the free throw line 6 times. Made some crucial I shouldn't say crucial because they lost, but
Yep.
made crucial free throws a little bit down the stretch. Crucial. They lost again. Made the game a little closer down the stretch for the Milwaukee Bucks. 6 of 6 from the free throw line, but he was 2 of 10. 2 of 10 from the field. 1 of 3 from three. And Khris Middleton finished with 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Khris Middleton, not the best of nights at all. However, this was his first game back since May.
Right.
And of course, we talked.
Double ankle surgery. That doesn't sound fun at all.
I
To
mean,
come
I
back
don't even
from.
know how that would
My
feel. I
career
mean,
will be
you're thinking
over.
about his recovery and rehab for that. He probably didn't play basketball for 2 or 3 months in the
That,
summer, which the summer is really when that conditioning period, guys, that's when they're made during the summer. Now, I know Khris Middleton's a veteran, he's been through that, but in terms of keeping your body in shape, getting in shape for the next season at hand, the summer is crucial. Whether you're a young player developing or a veteran player, just keeping your body intact for the next season, keeping your body conditioned, that summer portion is crucial. Khris Middleton probably wasn't playing a whole bunch of basketball over
no.
the summer. He was rehabbing a lot to get back onto the basketball court. Tonight didn't look like the best of Khris Middleton's we've seen. So I want to give him a little bit of leeway in terms of the last week. We talked about Kristaps Porzingis. We were going, okay, he's active. Kristaps Porzingis. He actually came back looked like Kristaps Porzingis. We want to say
Yeah.
that didn't really miss a beat, but we still give him the benefit of the doubt in a sense where we go, Kristaps Porzingis. He missed all this time. If he looks a little shaky in some spots, we expect that. So we kind of expect that out of Khris Middleton as well, and even more so because of the injury he had and the time he missed. But what level to this Bucks team does Khris Middleton bring? Because you look at where they're at now. They're 11-11. Terrible start to the season. Ever since then, a little bit better. They haven't been at the start of the season. Every Celtics fan out there was laughing, going, "Oh, look who the 14th and 15th seeds are. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers." That's how this season started. It was the Bucks and the Sixers, 14 and 15, right down there about what, 8, 9 games into the
Right.
season. They were slotted, boom, last in the conference. Yet the Milwaukee Bucks, they've made their way back up into the play-in portion, even above that play-in spot now. But they're 11-11. They've been playing better as of recently. Where does Khris Middleton actually bring this Milwaukee Bucks team? Because I think we're in agreement that they've fallen out of contention in a sense, in terms of probably not a top 5 NBA team anymore, even with Giannis on the roster. But where exactly in the East and within the sphere of the conversation of contention does Khris Middleton bring the Bucks? Does he bring them? Can they be top 3 in the East this year? Top 4, top 5? Where exactly does Khris Middleton bring the Bucks?
I think that the Bucks fall into the category of the Knicks and Heat. I think where he's starting to see the old competitors, the old contenders, the people who we almost knew we were going to see in the first, second, and third rounds of the playoffs before the playoffs even began, start to dwindle and lose that kindling that they used to have. But Khris Middleton coming back into the lineup for the Bucks is only going to keep the trend upward for the Bucks, especially during the regular season. He's a very key player to the Milwaukee Bucks. He's one of the longest tenured players, and he is someone that when he gets his time back, it will make key contributions. But I believe I saw during pregame that Doc Rivers introduced Khris Middleton to the team like he's never even met the team before when he first came back onto the practice court. So that's the difference between the return of Kristaps and the return of Khris Middleton. Kristaps was in the building every single day with those guys, and from the looks of it, it seems like Khris Middleton wasn't around to be seen. He was more in rehab facilities getting his ankles taken care of before he could even come back to practice. And I think that we are going to see a mix of the new teams, Pacers, Cavaliers, Magic, and they're going to mix in with the Miami Heats, the Philadelphia 76ers, the the Milwaukee Bucks, and obviously the New York Knicks are not really in the same conversation because I think they're one of those teams that are a little bit newer of a look because we really haven't seen much of them other than on opening night. And I think that the Knicks are still, in my opinion, the one of the better competing teams in the East for us. But I think that obviously the Eastern Conference runs through Boston, and we'll see where the bricks lie. And I think that the Bucks, if we see them in a series, they'll give us a little bit of trouble because this will be the first time that we match up against the Milwaukee Bucks with Damian Lillard in a playoff situation.
The Milwaukee Bucks. We look at the Celtics and Bucks and where they've gone in recent seasons. The Milwaukee Bucks were champions in 2021. The Celtics were 500. Now the Celtics are champions and the Milwaukee Bucks are 500. The directions in which these two franchises have gone in recent years is very, very stark to see because Milwaukee, when they had Drew Holiday, before the Drew Holiday trade, in which they, yikes, indirectly moved Drew Holiday to Portland and then to the Celtics for Damian Lillard, who, again, 31 points tonight Damian Lillard had. When the Milwaukee Bucks did that, they pretty much sunk their franchise. And of course, the subsequent firing of Mike Budenholzer, then the replacement of him for Adrian Griffin, who they then fired 40 games into the season last year, and then replaced him with Doc Rivers. That pretty much sunk the whole ship for them. Now, there's still a chance for the Milwaukee Bucks to win the East, of course, this year because they're going to have these three guys likely healthy. Lillard, Giannis, Middleton, likely. I want to say likely because you never know what can happen, but projected, they're supposed to have these guys healthy later on in the season, unlike they did last season. All three of those guys were banged up with injuries to end last year's season. Maybe the Pacers series goes different. They beat the Pacers. We, of course, faced the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe we faced the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals instead last year, and who knows where that series actually goes because every game against the Pacers was a little dicey for the Celtics. It was a sweep, but it was one of the more competitive sweeps we've seen in a while. Yet the Milwaukee Bucks right now, we're sitting here kind of, we kind of denounced them a little bit. I think with the 11-11 record and what happened last season and the fall we've seen within them, we're denouncing them because defensively they're not the same team as they once were. Offensively, they're missing pieces they once had. Specifically upon the perimeter, we used to think in 2019, oh my goodness, this is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the entire league. We can't stop them from the perimeter yet. Now, it doesn't really feel that way whatsoever. And the Milwaukee Bucks, this is where the Celtics we should be grateful as Celtics fans because the Milwaukee Bucks, they just, I, I, I mentioned it earlier on the broadcast. If they can't win a game like tonight, I don't know how they're going to beat us 4 out of 7 times in a series. Now, Giannis does muck things up just a little bit in terms of, okay, he's going to be, if we play a series with the Milwaukee Bucks, he's going to be the best player on the floor. But really around him, you have other guys who they just simply do not trust. Damian Lillard, Khris Middleton, they trust those guys. Brook Lopez, they trust those guys. After that, they don't trust anybody. They do not trust a fifth starter. They don't trust anybody off their bench. None whatsoever. And that's the story of the Milwaukee Bucks. They've completely sacrificed their depth in order to pay the guys at the top of the roster they have right now. And the top of the guys at the guys at the top of the roster of the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't want to say they don't really get the job done entirely, but they're not exactly the best top four in the entire NBA. They're an aging top four in the NBA. We know Brook Lopez, he's a 10-year plus vet. Giannis, he was drafted over 10 years ago. Lillard and Khris Middleton, both guys who came into the league early 2010. So this is an aging group at the top of the roster for the Milwaukee Bucks, and the rest of the roster they don't really trust whatsoever. And we posted a video on it this morning where we were talking about it last post game because we were talking about the next matchup. We were talking about this matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks, and we were saying the Celtics, for as good as they are right now, the Milwaukee Bucks represent something, or rather, transactions. They'll represent transactions within a contending team. The Celtics, they don't want to misstep in. They don't want to accidentally go and trade for an over 30 point guard who they're going to go and pay $40 million for, or they don't want to go sign a bunch of role players who are going to do nothing for them. They don't want to get rid of players who are actually producing, like Drew Holiday was for the Bucks, for somebody who is going to be either the same level and is going to be the same level but cause you to not be able to fill out the depth. We've seen that within multiple rosters. We saw it with the Lakers. We were seeing it with the Nuggets. We saw it with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'll even mention this team too, the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns that go and trade for Bradley Beal. Kevin Durant's there. Devin Booker.
That
All
was
those
just
guys making 40 plus million. Kevin Durant making upwards of 50 million. You can't fill out the rest of the roster. And that's where the Milwaukee Bucks are right now. That's not where the Celtics are yet. But the Celtics are definitely going to have to be careful in order to not become this team later on down the line and keep this, I don't want to say, this dynastic run going. Only won one championship, folks, but if we win another, we're going to have to start talking about dynasties. But that's really what the Celtics are chasing right now, is a dynasty.